Welcome to the first video from Pseudoscience. Today I'll be covering the geometric nature of matter and energy, which was inspired by the visualization playing in this video. For those that don't recognize it, it's actually a screensaver from Windows. So, for this installment, I'll define the basic building blocks of matter and energy, the relationship between them and how they can be arranged into complex structures, making up all the elements and consequently all matter. I assume you already know the current understanding of the atom: protons, electrons, neutrons, arranged in a planetary-like system with the protons and neutrons in the nucleus at the center, and then the electrons flying around or even through the nucleus. This works well since it's been updated with a probability cloud for electrons, like Schrödinger postulated, and I gotta say, brilliant work on making that equation. But an equation, even a perfect one, without understanding what's happening is still not complete. It's actually much easier to do away with the old concept of particles and embrace something novel: geometry. Let me explain. In my geometric theory of matter, all matter is just a product of many junction points locked together. They can join together in two ways. On a nuclear level, the junction points are bound together completely, meaning that they do not add or remove junction points after its creation. So that forms a geometric shape. That shape is either symmetrical or not. If it is symmetrical, then they form noble elements and do not react with other atoms. If the shape is eccentric, it will bond with other specific atoms with a mirrored imperfection in order to attain symmetry. If the shape is too eccentric, it just falls apart and tries to break down into smaller pieces, which are. Now, the properties of both the atom itself and how it can combine with other shapes to create a stable molecule are dependent on the number of junction points. But what's a junction point? A junction point is simply a perpendicular intersection of electrical and magnetic energy. In this theory, it is the replacement of the electron in the classical sense. If you look at a typical electromagnetic waveform, like the one seen on the screen now, the rotation of the junction point creates a sinusoidal pattern as it travels through space. We've all probably seen induction in action, though, where electrons move through a wire, and that induces a magnetic field around the wire perpendicular to the flow of electrons. And, the opposite is true too. A wire moving through a magnetic field will induce a flow of electrons in that wire. So if we go back to the visualization now, we can see a perfectly balanced cube. Notice the cube had 8 corners or vertices. We already know that a junction point is a vertex of electrical and magnetic energy, so we can conceptualize that a particle made from 8 junction points would be stable too. When you look at the periodic table, it's obvious that 8 is a significant number. Of course, you'd have to ignore the first row to make this theory plausible, but I might have a solution for why hydrogen and helium are exceptions to the rule, though, with the first line in the periodic table being stable fractions instead of whole numbers. Well, that's pretty much covers the first installment of the series. Please leave your comments below and I'll try to answer any valid questions, and I will see you next week.